Is every level supposed to be better or smarter or more powerful than the previous one?
No. In fact, you will almost always see the next level as less better than where you're at now. That is more normal. You tend to see the best one as the one that you're at. And improvement, from your perspective, is not usually a move up the altitudes. It is improvement is within an altitude in a direction which is defined by the altitude. So in green, progress might be perceived as being a more authentic self, being a more caring and generous soul, being more actively involved in progressive programs in the world. At the orange altitude, horizontal progress means higher pay, better family relationships, better, higher, bigger company, movement along the rational achiever dimension. And you can keep moving up forever along any of these dimensions on the horizontal. There's endless games to play at every altitude. So in general, you won't recognize the next altitude as progress. You will be recognizing progress within your altitude. If you have to make a generalization about what happens at each level, you could probably say a new level of intelligence. Debatably, they are each more intelligent, but probably more than anything, each level is more sensitive. It is more sensitive to more subtle information. So if sensitivity is intelligence, that, an instrument in order to read reality must be sensitive, so a mind must be sensitive in order to comprehend itself. If we could say something like that, is being sensitive better? That's an impossible question. You have to be tough. You can't be destroyed by what you're experiencing. So an increase in sensitivity requires greater protection. So you may need to pack in more crap in your organism in order to sustain a higher altitude. You might want to slim down and become red beam in a post-apocalyptic world because there's not infrastructure for your higher altitudes. Absolutely, regress then in that case. You should only work with what is possible for you to carry.
Is it possible for just anybody to get to the highest level? Can I get to the highest level?
Probably. It is almost certainly possible for you to get to a higher level. And that, how much time do you have? How much energy do you have? How stuck are you in your worldview? How open-minded are you? And as much as it sucks to admit, how intelligent are you is going to factor in. How brave are you is going to factor in. Some of the things that we don't want to admit about ourselves are the things that are preventing us from moving up. One thing we can say about the ultraviolet and the clear light stages, to the extent that we have seen them in the world, they are not easy to get to. They are extremely difficult. Like some of the most difficult things to accomplish as a person. They require so then the Buddha, the story of the Buddha, it's hard, right? It's difficult. So can you, that's a tough question. Can you win an Olympic gold medal? You can become an athlete. You can try. You can get to some stage that's higher. That's what I would say to myself, to my child, to someone who would ask this question. I would say, maybe you can get to the highest level, maybe you can't, but that isn't really the point. The point is, where do you show up now? Are you showing up healthy? Are you acknowledging all of the stages to exist? And do you want to move from where you are? Is that a good idea? Are you stable enough to move forward? Are you prepared for what that could possibly mean? I would encourage you to move up a stage. But that isn't the point. The point is health. The point is to see the existence of realities that exist and to treat and to respect and honor them and to nurture their health, to nurture their healthy continued development. That is what you can do.
What is the point of moving up a level?
Probably the most generalized statements you can make is that each subsequent altitude sees more of reality, it has a greater intellectual depth, and it is more updated in the historical evolution of ideas. those facts should always be true. More intelligent, more sensitive, more self-aware, more system-aware. That should always be the case with an altitude movement. But also, the movement is very zigzaggy in terms of how it is experienced. And that's why spiral dynamics is considered a spiral, because it seems to be going back and forth in the manner of a caduceus, or the medical staff, right? Or a helix, a back and forth motion between classically yin and yang, the male and female aspects of reality, form and emptiness. That might be a bit much to get into, but what we're saying in generally in spiral dynamics, but you could apply it to altitudes too, is that when you go to magenta, that's sort of a feminine move. Red is a masculine, amber is feminine, orange masculine, green feminine. So you can say there's this back and forth zigzagging between the tendency to see yourself as a part of a group, which is a communion impulse, and the tendency to see yourself as an isolated individual, which is an agency position. So magenta is the communion with the spirits. Red is agency as your ego over others. Amber is communion with the mythic membership, cult of society. Orange is individuation, agency, rights and responsibilities. I am a rational being, you don't tell me nothing, right? And so we're going back and forth between the yin and yang, the male and female. Sure, that's one way to see it, and it seems it makes a certain sort of sense that there would be some sort of oscillation as we're moving to higher stages. That seems to be like, sure, why not? That's an aspect of spiral dynamics.
How can I get somebody else to move up a stage?
That is like saying, how can I make my boyfriend listen to me more? You can. It's possible, but you're kind of asking the wrong question. Don't try to move people up the levels. If you want to move someone up the levels, move yourself up the levels. Or I don't know, I'm kind of tough. Move me up the levels. Give me some hell. But yeah, moving up a level is going to be hell. Whatever you think is real has to be challenged, has to be, your stable foundation of reality kind of has to be knocked out from under you before you're going to build it a stage higher to some extent. Each stage movement is felt as both an epiphany and a death. The death of a former worldview. You say, the old me never would have done this, or the old me used to always do this. That's a former me is dead now. It's gone. It's in the past. So that was a former stage expression of me. I'm the same dang body at very least, but what I'm claiming by saying the old me did this, the new me does this, that's my way of saying to you, just naturally, not because I do altitudes theory, but just people say this to each other all the time, and that is to say that you are expressing the altitude as a self, as an identity. Your altitude is a self and an identity. So for you to move to the next altitude, where the one you're at right now will have to be destabilized. It will have to be in a state of great dissonance and upheaval, and it will need to be challenged quite a bit in order for you to see the utility and the necessity of moving up to the next stage.